Someone once said to me, "Whereabouts is the otherworld located?" This was difficult to answer, and the only answer I could come up with was it's like asking where air is located, because the air is all around us and it's within us when we're breathing. It's not something that you can actually put a finger on to say, this is it, this is air. In the same way, if you're wondering where the other world is located, you can't actually put a finger on it and on a map and say, this is where the other world resides. I think in our heavily physical, materialistic world, this is what causes a major problem for many people who are studying the other world, our ability to reach out to something that is external to the material world. And in earlier times, I know for a fact, because of what's been passed down to me, the other world was as important as the natural world. This gives us a problem because the natural world is hardly important to us today, let alone the other world, so it sort of goes in stages. We have the materialistic world, and then we have the natural world. It's sort of outside us. And then beyond that is the other world. Now, what's the other world? You know, we can just about relate to the natural world, like when we go walking with the dog or when we just fancy a little walk in a wood or something. But we don't take on board the essence of the natural world. We don't take on board its spirit. And that's another word that is a difficult one to address. Because if you're asking where is the spirit, you're hard pressed to say, well, it's here or it's there. Again, it's like air. It's in the air. It is the air. The spirit of the air. The spirit of the other world. The spirit of the spirit. As crazy as that sounds, it's all relevant, because sadly, this is something that we have lost over a long period of time, but slowly the natural world has been drained of the other world. It's been taken away by all that we have around us now, by the streets, by the buildings, by technology, by the things that fly in the air, things that move fast across the ground, cars, planes, trains. Our very attitude is what is responsible for taking us away from the spirits of things. Now you might ask, what relevance is the spirit of things in our world today? How can looking at something and seeing a spirit contained within it help us to understand ourselves more, understand our past, understand culture, understand everything that we have around us? It can help us to understand because we're seeing an enriched character of that something that we're looking at. So let's go back to the spirit of the air. I like to see Ravnos as the spirit of the air. Because we thingify, and that is an actual word, we thingify everything, we've gone further and further and further away. So if I suggest to you to close your eyes for a moment, just for a short moment, and visualize the spirit of the air all around you, you might find it quite difficult, or you might go into scenarios of what you think the air should be. That's quite normal. That's quite actually an ordinary thing to do by any standards. But to try and characterize the air, characterize the sky, characterize the earth, characterize the clouds, characterize the trees, characterize the streams and the hills and the rivers. If we can imbue all these things with character, so when I'm saying spirit, I want you to swap that around and see it as character, then suddenly everything can come to life. Suddenly all those things have life. Now we're presented with a great big humongous dilemma here, because while we're seeing spirit in all the natural things that I've just mentioned, where does that leave the buildings and the streets, the pavements, the shops, all the materialistic things that we have in our world? Do they have character? Probably not, because it's a little bit stupid, isn't it, to say that a shop has a character. A shop has a spirit. A chair in a shop has a spirit. A tile on the floor has a spirit. Where do you draw the line? Where? Well, in my family you didn't. But it all depended, under animistic law, where you encountered that thing and how you encountered that thing. So if a tile is sticking up and it's loose, and you walk into a room and you trip over it and you curse it, then you had to be aware of what you were saying and doing, because as crazy as it sounds, the tile might curse you back. As odd as that sounds, it used to happen. There were numerous times when I could stumble across something, hit something, and I'm famous for doing that. I've always been a little bit careless and clumsy. There were numerous times when I would do that and I'd say, oh shit, or something, oh, you know, this thing's there. And then somebody might pipe up, don't blame me, I haven't been set in the ground right. If you're tripping over me and I'm a tile, I haven't been set in the ground right, so don't blame me. And then ha ha ha, we all laugh. But, the whole point of this is that the tile is given a character. The tile is given its own individual spirit at the precise moment that you interact with it. So having said that, it's not purely a case of seeing spirit or character in absolutely everything that is around you, all of the time. Because if you're doing that, you probably go quite bananas with it all. But when it comes to the air, of course, the spirit of the air is constant because it's natural. The spirit of a tree is constant because it's natural. The spirit of the rain is constant because it is natural. It is the natural that we have to inject into the things we encounter in our lives. But first and foremost, we have to see that there is spirit or character in us. By seeing that we have spirit or character in ourselves, we have a head start. We are aligning ourselves or realigning ourselves with the way we would have thought a long time ago in earlier tribes and in folkloric style. It sounds a bit strange to say style, but can't find any other word. If we have spirit or character in ourselves, then we are going to match a spirit or character in something else. Now, when we're in the trees, it's far easier because trees are living. Trees move on their own, grow on their own. Water moves on its own. Humans don't have to make these things move and grow. Clouds move across the sky on their own. We don't have to do anything with them. So when you've got something like that that's natural, then the spirit or the character is contained naturally within it. So it's easy to start with your ideas, to strengthen your ideas of animism by visiting woods, by sitting beside streams, by walking by the ocean, walking in the park even. Take the dog in the park and you can start to look around you and see what's going on, what you feel. But there's no getting away from it. We have to have the animistic spark in everything that is around us at the time we are interacting with it. If we don't, then we are closing the door on a world that has always been there, that is still there, and always will be there, and it'll certainly be there after death. When we've finished with our lives, we're not going to have this anymore. We're not going to have the streets and the cars and the pavements and the roofs and the ladders and the drills and everything we use in our materialistic world. We are going to be left with the other world. So what's going to happen when we don't entertain anything at all of spirit or character in anything? What is going to happen? And mostly, all people have the idea that matter matters. So there are going to be very few who actually die with ancient knowledge of what most earlier tribal people had, including Romany gypsies, especially Romany gypsies, because that's where I get all my knowledge from, my family. What are we going to have? What's going to happen? Where do we go? Where is the other world located? Where is the spirit and the character of that thing? We are pressed urgently to understand what is going on within us. We are called, I was looking for a word then, called to find something that is other than this material world within us. The other world isn't so difficult to find if you turn the clock back and look at folkloric ideas. I use these an awful lot in my classes and the people I work with. And it does help them to identify with the spirit and the character of things, the spirit in themselves. Some of them are in great conflict inside. And once they start talking to me, and once we do a few exercises, explorations to try to find their inner landscapes, a great deal is opened up about character. Now their spirit or character will relate to a spirit or a character within a folkloric story. So in all my studies, in all my research into the human mind, using the folkloric ideas that I've been given, passed down, mainly from my great-grandfather and my grandmother, who just babbled about it all, I've discovered that we are the poorer for not having folkloric awareness, tales, songs, scenarios that have been going on for thousands and thousands of years. We are the poorer for not having those in our lives. And I'm on a campaign to do something about this. I would love to have you with me. It's very rare what we're talking about, and yet it needs to be talked about. We badly need some education. We need to maybe slip back into a folkloric state of mind so that we're connected with and we develop a relationship with something within us that is terribly old and something that connects us to ancient culture, to our ancestors, and to everything that relates to the natural world and the other world, and also our greater spiritual personal lives, if you like. Come and join me on my workshops. I do one-day workshops around the country, and I do weekend workshops where we can go a little deeper into the ideas of Romany folklore, otherworld, animism, spirituality, how you can help yourself mentally, emotionally, and of course, most importantly, spiritually. Come and join me. I'd be happy to share the time and the education with you. I think that's all for now. I'll talk some more about this as we go along, but thanks for listening. Take care.